Hi, my name is Ben Plessier and I am a fervent user of Wappler. With this video I want to introduce you to the CRUD operations on the server side. Each of these operations will create a JSON file which will supply the data to the client side of the application. These JSON files are commonly called APIs or Application Programming Interfaces. The previous video left us with a database with tables for the products and customers. These tables need to be maintained with new entries, deleted entries, updates, and also need to be able to be read. For this, I go to the Workflows tab, and to the API section. Here I add two folders, one for the products and one for the customers. As we progress through this playlist, there will be many more APIs. Therefore, I cannot stress enough that good housekeeping is paramount if you intend to keep your sanity. After having created the main folders, I create subfolders, one for each of the tables that were created in the previous video. Each of these tables needs to have the ability to have CRUD actions being applied to them. Thus I go ahead and add this ability. Create. Read. Update. Delete. I will not bore you any further. I will pause the video and do the rest without being recorded. After I have added all of the CRUD actions and refreshed the page, this is what we are looking at. An empty JSON file has been created for each of the CRUD actions. Before I go further, let me explain the difference between CRUD's terminology and that of Wappler. Create becomes insert. Read becomes query. The remaining two terminologies are the same for both CRUD and Wappler. With that in mind, I click on Create, which opens the visual panel of the JSON file. Here I add a database action, called Database Insert. I give the action a recognizable name. Then I open the Database Insert dialog where I choose the customer's table. This now shows me all of the table fields. Looking through the database fields tells me that the creation date field needs to have its value changed to show the current date of the creation. The value is set to now. Click OK and we are done creating the customer. Now for the inputs. Wappler has already added the fields. All that I need to do is to create the server-side validation rules. Each field gets assigned the linked field, which is the same as the field name. This is so that server-side error messages will show on the front end. Then I show that the field is required. I repeat this for each of the following fields. Notice that the email field gets an extra validation that requires a valid email address. The phone field is optional so that there is no validation rule required. Save the file and close it. For the delete file, I again add a database action, this time called Database Delete. The delete step gets a recognizable name. In the options dialog we see that the ID is the same value as the posted ID. Click on OK. Then I go to the input field, just as with the previous JSON file. This time, Wappler has not inserted the input field. Remember this for all of the delete steps. The input field needs to be entered manually. The linked field get the usual validation rule. Save the file and close it. Now for the read file. This gets a database query step. Inside the query builder, I select all of the fields. There are no inputs so that we do not have to worry about validation rules. For the last file, I add a database update step. In the Update Options dialog, I select the Customers table. This reveals the same fields as those in the Create step. This time, we do not update the Create Date field, it stays unchanged no matter what. Thus it is removed. The condition is that the database ID field is the same as the posted field. The inputs undergo the usual treatment, linked field name and validation rules. Save the file and close it. While here, also save the read file and close it. But wait! I have spent a lot of time repeating myself. When I return to the inputs for the update file and compare that to the inputs for the create file, they are the same except for the ID input. Wouldn't it make more sense if the two actions were combined? Let me go ahead and do that. First, I rename the file to UPSERT. This is a combination of update and insert. Should coin the term RUD as the norm when using Wappler? To complete the UPSERT, I add the database action called insert. This undergoes the usual treatment as previously shown. If this API was to run as is, both of the steps will be executed. This is not what we want. To overcome this, I add a conditional step. The condition evaluates the value of the ID input. If the value is 1 or higher, then the update step has to be executed. Else, the insert step should be executed. As a last adjustment, the ID input is no longer a required input. Save the file and we are done. I can now delete the create file. Let me now make the same change to the other files. As well as that, I will create the steps for each file. I will do that while I pause the recording to reduce the monotony. Maybe you could do the same. We can then compare the results when I come back. Right. I am back. I have deleted the create files and renamed the update file to UPSERT. Selecting the delete order, we see the required ID input. The database action shows the usuals. The read action shows all fields selected. The UPSERT action shows all of the inputs as required with the exception of shipping date, tracking number and ID. These inputs are not required for the insert step. The update step allows editing of all of the fields with the exception of the order date. The insert step shows all of the fields including the order date. The latter has a set value of now. Continuing on, the delete and read actions are all as expected. I will just show these without further comments. The order items UPSERT action shows all of the fields as required, except for the ID, which is not required for the insert step. The update step allows editing of all of the fields. The insert step shows all of the required fields. For the categories action, the UPSERT action shows the name as the only required field. This is the only fields that is required by the insert step. The update database action shows all of the fields. The database insert shows just the name field. Last of all, the products table. There are only two fields that are required for the insert step: name and category ID. The update step allows all of the fields to be edited. The insert step has the two required fields as well as three fields that have set values. I hope that I did not make any mistakes. If I have, please leave a comment below. And that is it for the server-side CRUD actions. I trust that you have enjoyed this video and hope that I will see you for the next video where I will create an admin dashboard. Thank you for watching.